Mike Owens with Inside Fighting here. Today I'm joined by the one, the only Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who returns to action UFC 307. Stephen, always a pleasure, my man. How are things with you today?
Pleasure is all mine, and it's great, man. Great. I mean, weather's great here. Starting to cool down, 70 degrees, getting that fall season. I love it. Walking around in sweatshirts, you know the whole deal, bro. The fall weather is just amazing here in South Carolina. So, but training's going well, man. Ready for UFC 307.
You never got to fight in Salt Lake City the last time you were booked, UFC 291. How does it feel to kind of, I don't want to say right that wrong because there was nothing done wrong on your part, but to finally get to perform in front of the Salt Lake City fans?
I'm excited, man. I definitely owe them one because I wasn't able to do that last summer against Pereira. But to go against Joaquin Buckley, who's another guy who's itching at the bit to step out there in the octagon with me. It was funny because I think it was the International Fight Week, man. He was like begging me to fight, bro. He's like, Steven, come on, man, let's make this fight happen. Let's do this. I'm like, all right, my people get in touch with your people and we'll make it happen. And here we go. October 5th, man, it's happening.
I dare I say as well, Salt Lake City has become the home of the head kick with how UFC 276 and UFC 291 ended, and then we have you with the most credentialed kickboxer in the UFC and Joaquin with that viral knockout against Impa Kasanganay. It just feels like the perfect fight for this card.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think it's perfect, especially like you said, me throwing the head kicks, him throwing that head kick. That was so crazy, and that's what makes him dangerous because when I went back and watched that fight, I was like, oh my gosh, he did that at 80, he did that at 85.
Mm.
But he's not notorious for anything like that. So he just pulled that out of the hat, which is crazy. So that's just like another element to the game of his game that I have to watch out for. Like he can pull anything. He's so athletic. You know what I mean? He can pull things like that off. But and I think what made it work was he's not used to throwing that kind of thing. You know, and he's not used to throwing stuff like that crazy spin back kick to the face. But I definitely got to watch out for that in the fight coming up.
Is there something that Joaquin does that you haven't seen from a previous opponent? Is there something unique to him within his skill set?
No, man. I mean, the only thing is that Joaquin Buckley is very explosive. He's very athletic. He's shorter. I do at some point think he's going to be shooting for the legs. I know that was successful against the 6'5". I don't even want to even try to pronounce his name, but opponent he had not too long ago. I do believe that he's going to try to stand and bang, but when he figures out he can, he's going to be looking for the shot. Now he's very explosive. He's got the one double leg takedown, but I don't think he can hold me down. I think I'll be ready for the takedown to be able to keep the fight standing. You never know. I've been working on my wrestling, so you might see me take him down during the fight.
I caught up with Dakota Teixeira, who's doing great things in the PFL, and I asked her the similar question, so I'm going to ask you now. Are you one of those fighters who, no matter who you fight, whether they're a striker, a wrestler, a grappler, are going to want to wrestle against you at some point? Is that, I think, a part of everybody's game plan to get away from your dangerous striking at some point within those 15 or 25 minutes?
I think so, man. I really do. I mean, most people will say, I mean, even Shavkat, the last fight, said that he was going to stand and strike with me. Of course, after the fight, he said he hurt his ankle, so he wasn't supposed to. But I'm like, come on, man. At some point in time, either right off the bat or maybe later in the first or in the second round, they're going to be definitely shooting for the legs. He's going to be trying to hit me up against the fence, look for the takedown, and try to tire me out that way. I mean, you saw a lot of guys in the past do that. GSP was really good at that against big strikers, especially Thiago Alves. That was a huge game plan and strategy for that fight. So I see a lot of guys doing that against high-level strikers.
We've obviously seen Alex Pereira over the last 3 or 4 fights. All of his opponents say that they won't try to take down against him, and we've seen how those fights have ended. I know that you had that promise against Kevin Holland when you guys fought, but do you almost wish that your opponents would take the Alex Pereira approach and say that they want to test their striking skills against you? Because we've seen how that's gone for Power
I mean,
10.
of course, that would be cool. I think that would make for definitely a more of an exciting fight. I mean, nobody wants to see Stephen Wonderboy Thompson get taken down. They want to see what he does best, and that's against other good strikers, especially guys like Joaquin who come forward. They're very explosive. He's looking to get in. He's got that Mike Tyson style of fighting. He's a big, thick guy. So, I mean, that's what people want to see. So hopefully he's going to go back, go around the Kevin Holland route and try to keep the fight standing. But I'm prepared wherever the fight goes.
The NFL season is in full swing, and we have a fantastic new offer from our partners over at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet on touchdowns. And right now, All new customers who bet $5 will instantly receive $200 in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and you sign up using our promo code InsideFighting. The crown is yours.
Goes.
We've seen you in this position so many times in terms of defending your rank against the guy on the come up who's trying to take what you've got. The likes of the Kevin Holland fight, the Jeff Neal fight, the Sente Luque fight all come to mind. Is there a mental shift that you feel like you make when you go into that mode of defending your rank and rather than fighting somebody above you?
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously, as I was coming up, I'm still one of the top guys who give those guys that are coming up a chance.
Mm.
And there's a lot of guys in the top, especially in the welterweight division, that are trying to hold on to their spot as long as they can. But I was given the opportunity when I was coming up, the Jake Ellenbergers, the Rory McDonald's, the Johnny Hendricks, they gave me the opportunity to come up and do so, even though I wasn't even ranked in the top 10. So I want to give that back to these guys that are up and coming who want to try to take that spot. And for me, it's my test. It's my test to see if I still got it against these young bucks. Of course, everybody's looking at me as the old guy because I'm 41. I'll be 42 in February, but I feel like I'm 25. I'm just as fast and I'm getting better. So it's one of those things that I don't mind stepping out and giving these guys that are up and coming a chance to prove themselves, just like I was given the chance.
Because this is quite clearly Joaquin's biggest fight of his career. He's just got into the top 15 this year, and now he's got a chance to get into the top 8, I believe, is ranked next to your name. Obviously, the motivation is so big for him. How do you match his motivation? Because this is, dare I say, just another fight for you. You've been doing this for so long and being in these such big fights. How do you match his motivation?
For the longest time, my goal was to get the title, right? And it's still at the top of the list. But now, as I've gotten older and I've trained with a lot of champions, that can't be the only goal because it gets lackluster. My goal now is to be the best Stephen Wonderboy Thompson I can be. I'm a lifelong martial artist. I'm continuing to train. I'm trying to continue to get better and to be the best that I can be. And the way I prove that is to fight these guys, best of the best in the world in the UFC. That's my test. I mean, even though I lost my last fight, I was still happy with what I was doing. I held his takedown off as long as I could, especially in the first round. Everything that I was working on was working. So even though I lost, I was still happy with the fight and what I was doing. So I think me trying to always improve myself in the gym, not necessarily in the octagon, but in the gym, and that's my test, right? That's kind of like my pop quiz. After all the training that I do in the gym, my pop quiz is to step out there and face off against these tough guys. So it keeps me fired up. It keeps me strong. It keeps my motivation at the top of the top, right? It keeps me hungry as well.
You mentioned your age there. I don't know if you've seen this graphic going around on Instagram, but I believe you're the second oldest ranked fighter in the UFC currently. The only person above you is Stipe Miocic. So you're
No
still
way.
That's correct. Yeah, I believe I checked it before we jumped on. I believe you're the second oldest ranked fitter. So you're still
Let's
doing it for the old
go.
guys.
Let's go. Heck yeah, man. I'm still in it for the old guys, bro. And that's so funny because, I root for the guys that I started with, the Jose Aldos, I'm still rooting for the Stipes, the guys that are still in the game, who's been as long in the game as me or even longer. I mean, Chris Weidman's there too. He was in the UFC before I was, and he's got a fight coming up in November as well. We're helping each other out in camps. But I'm cheering for the old guys, and I'm going to go out there and put on a show for UFC, 307 for us, for the veterans.
Do you have a preference in terms of the type of guys you fight and the type of guys that you think will get you to that world title? Do you think it would be better to fight the other veterans in the game, the likes of Leon Edwards, Gilbert Burns, and the like, or do you think the better choice is to go with these young guys on the come up, the likes of the Buckleys, people like that?
I don't think it really matters to me. I mean, to get to the title, yes, they're going to have to face those guys that are the young guys like the Joaquin Buckleys. But the guys at the top, I've been trying to get the Leon fight for a long time. So even I know he just lost the title with a good win over Joaquin Buckley. That could be something in the future that could happen. But it doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't, man. I'll fight the veterans. I'll fight the young bucks. I've never really, unless they didn't deserve it, I don't turn fights down.
I know that you're not the type to call anybody out. I know that you'll fight anybody who the UFC asks you to or put in front of you. But is there a fight in the 170-pound division that hasn't happened for you yet that you go, me versus that person is the one that I want before it's all said and done?
There's two guys really. I mean, obviously there's Leon Edwards, but I never got to face off against, even though he's a strong grappler and a good gas tank, Kamaru Usman,
Mm.
who I got a good relationship with, and I think that would be a fun one. We tried to get that one fight going not too long ago before the Shavkat fight. Didn't happen, but at the top of the list, I would say Leon Edwards. Definitely
100%.
Leon Edwards. Because he is a striker. He doesn't mind taking the fight to the ground, but he's not looking, that's not his only goal is to get you down. He will strike with you. And as a former welterweight champion, I would love to face off against him as well.
I have to ask you about the new welterweight champion, Belal Muhammad. What did you make of the fight at UFC 304? And do you think Belal becoming champion is good for the welterweight division?
I think so. I mean, it keeps the welterweight division moving, keeps everybody guessing. It helps the guys below him continue to move up, right? When you have a champion up at the top for a very long time, it gets a little stagnant. These guys fight everybody or fight the same guys pretty much. But it's good to have a good champion. Man, let me tell you, that was an amazing fight, man. The guy's got a gas tank like I've never seen before. He was just as fresh in the fifth round as he was in the first. So, man, hats off to Belal Muhammad, man. He was awesome.
You've obviously spent time with in the cage with Belal, and you've also spent time in the cage with Shavkat, who everybody is saying is next for the world title. From your perspective, and having spent time with both of them in the cage, who do you see coming out on top in that matchup? Should it be next?
Man, let me tell you. I mean, I would love to see that fight. I want that fight to happen. Shavkat deserves it. He's a very tough guy. Fought both guys, both very, very strong. Um, but man, it's literally at this level, at that level with those guys, it's a flip of a coin. It's like who shows up that night. I can't pick one or the other because I faced both and I felt both of those guys, of their strength, of their capability, of their cardio. The only thing that I would like to see tested is Shavkat's cardio.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? He's been 3 rounds with Jeff Neal, and Jeff Neal was kind of the first guy that kind of showed that Shavkat was mortal. You know,
Mm.
he made him bleed. He hurt him. It went the distance. He ended up finishing him in the third round, late in the third round. But Jeff Neal kind of showed Shavkat that he was mortal, that he could be hurt, that he can be outstruck. Um, he can defend the takedowns. And Bilal Muhammad's got some of the best takedown defense in the business. So I think it would be a good test for both, especially for Shavkat. But I would like to see Shavkat and Gary, and the winner of that fight Bilal Muhammad. But I do believe that Shavkat definitely deserves to get that title shot.
Again, having spent time in the cage with both of them, what's the biggest strength of Bilal Muhammad's game, and what's the biggest strength of Shavkat Rakhmonov's game?
Bilal Muhammad is definitely his gas tank and his relentlessness with his wrestling. He knows how to chain wrestle. Like I can stop A, B, C, but when he goes, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you know what I mean? When he
Mm.
continues to chain wrestle, it's hard to keep up with, especially if you're not experienced and at that level of wrestling. Shavkat is very, very strong. He's a very intelligent fighter. He's good everywhere. I think he's the better striker out of the both, but I would like to see his gas tank tested. And when you're being pushed like Bilal pushes people, I think that's somebody who can definitely test that. Can he keep that up? Can he keep that striking level up? Can he keep that the wrestling up like Bilal can? I don't know who's the stronger of the two because they both have got a squeeze like no other, man. That wrestling squeeze. I don't know if you've ever felt a wrestler squeeze, but it's out of this
Not
world,
on
man.
that level, certainly.
Man, we have a guy here who wrestled with Bo Nickel at a Penn State. He's a 155. He fights at 170 as well. But man, he's short. I know I'm bigger than him. He probably weighs 180. But when he squeezes you, it's like he feels like he's gonna break my ribs. Chris Weidman's the same way. He's got lats that stick out like a cobra. And man, they got a squeeze on him. And they don't get tired. They can hold that squeeze all day long. So man, they both have a squeeze. So I think if they do fight, I think the wrestling will be canceled out. I think they both will defend the takedown fairly well, get back up. So they won't have to strike, right? I
Mm.
think Shavkat is the better striker, but he's he doesn't keep a volume like Belal can. And I think that Belal has an advantage in his cardio for sure.
100%. Last question from me, Stephen, and thank you so much for your time. You can be as brief or as detailed with this last one as you like, but give me a walkthrough of how you see your perfect fight day on the 5th of October. What happens when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep at night on a perfect world?
Oh man. Well, waking up that morning, obviously on a Saturday, waking up, the nerves are going to be there, right? This is why I do what I do. I love this feeling. There's no other feeling that gives you this like a fight, right? You got millions of people all over the world going to be watching just you and your opponent go out there and do battle. So mentally, I'm prepared. I know that I've done everything that I could to prepare for this fight. Now is the chance just to go out there and do it. I know what I'm capable to do. My perfect fight, I go out there and kick the guy in the head in the first round and finish it. Perfect. But I'm prepared for a 3-5 minute round war. And mentally, you have to be prepared for that, because if you're not, it could affect you out there.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm prepared for, a gritty, hard fight. If the knockout happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I visualize my hand being raised at the end of that fight and putting on the best show at UFC 307.
I love it. Stephen, always a pleasure to catch up. Thank you as always for your time. Have a great and safe rest of camp and look forward to seeing you back in action soon.
Thank you, my friend. You have a good one, brother.